Here we are in Wreckfest. I'm in my garage here using a pretty nondescript car. I haven't picked out any particular car. It just happens to be the last car I was using. Although I did set it up to have lots of armor. If you look at the stats of this vehicle down below, you'll see the strength is 6.8, which is actually quite high, and you'll actually see there is some side armor. You can see it over the number that says 89 there. And I've got a heavy front armor and heavy back armor, which didn't do much good for his cornering ability. This car came as an A-class car, I believe. It's still an A-class car, but it's been substantially upgraded, which will improve the acceleration quite a bit. I almost maxed out the acceleration in this setup. You'll notice the cornering is low at 3.7. It didn't start out that high with this car anyway, and putting lots of armor did not help. It makes the car quite heavy. As you can see here, it's 2,000 plus kilos, which does not do any good for cornering. And the acceleration, well, it's only got 4 gears. The game does not seem to play the gears particularly well if you change your gear ratios in tuning, but that's another story. So let's go take this car out onto the track. I could have used any car. I don't really need to use one that's heavily armored, but it does adjust my technique when doing this. I'm going to go into Boulder Bank Circuit again, as I've done in a previous video where I showed setting damage to realistic. I will leave a link to that video in the description if you want to check. It was 3 laps, and I was playing offline against bots. And I believe there were only 5 of us that finished after 3 laps. So I'm going to use a technique I call not being greedy, that gives a pretty good payout and has some gameplay in it. Rather than the fastest method possible, it does use techniques for the fastest method of getting ahead in the game by earnings. So here we are at Boulders Bank. It's 2.88 kilometers, so mostly gravel. And there's my car again. I could toggle that, but I don't need to. You've already seen it. Now this is the most important page of the setup. Laps down the bottom of the screen there. You'll notice they're changing. The maximum you can set is 60 laps. This is a technique that works everywhere you want to get the high payout in the game. The other thing you do, you'll notice damage is changing. You want to set it to realistic. If you set it higher than that to extreme, your car is likely to die rather than have the opponents take themselves out. Also, by setting it to realistic, your bonus times multiplier at the end of the race goes up by 0.6. Since I'm using an A-class car, I'm going to give the opponents an A-class car. A lot of people suggest using the super van to do this, but I find sometimes the races can go longer actually when you use the super van for some reason. Some reason the bots are able to handle it just incredibly. So I just set it to the same class I'm using. It works for me, and I can go in here with any car. The technique is a little different if I don't have a highly armored car. Now you go up a little further, and we've got opponents there. It just went to 0. So the maximum number is 23, 23. 23 is the maximum you can have. This is the technique, the setup you want to do. Every race, if you want any race, you want the maximum payout. You don't have to run all 60 laps, which is a secret of getting a high payout in by using this technique, setting the damage to realistic. So let's go to the next game. It's just my personal preferences. I'll get a little bit of a bonus plus the additional to the 0.6 I get for having the damage set to realistic by turning ABS off, traction control and stability control down rather than full. It's just my personal preference. The Multiplier only applies to EX points. It does not apply to the CR. And here's a summary of the race. I'll hit that again. We don't need to look at that because it takes so long for the game to set up the track. It does not take this long for it to set up simple tracks that are wall-lined. There's a lot more things to run and do off course, so it has to go through many more files, I assume, to set up the track. But it also takes this long at the end of the race for it to bid down what the results were. I don't know if it keeps stats on all the bots you competed against or what it is doing there. I don't know why it takes so long at the end of the race. And you do get some tips up in the corner. Good, we don't have a black screen, so we're actually going to be able to go on to the race. Sometimes it sets up with a black screen or a screen where it only shows the sky. You do not have headlights in this game. I do believe there was a time long ago when headlights were available and there was lighting, but it no longer is. Now I can go back in and adjust some of those things, but I'm not going to, so let's head out onto the circuit and get a race started. Now I've got a highly armored car here, so instead of just dropping back and letting them all get ahead of me over here, I'm going to try to head out with them into the first couple of corners. Try to make it through without hitting a tree or something and completely damaging my car. If by chance I get up somewhere up near the front, find this technique works just a smidgen better. You don't have the bots ramming into you, taking all the options they can to put you into barriers. And when you go there, I think you get the bots to up their game just a bit by trying to keep up with you, which tends to have them crash a little more. Now, if you notice up in the top right-hand corner, it does say we're on lap 1 of 60. And my car is not handling overly well in the corners, as you can see. There we go. Mark just put me into the wall. I didn't take too much damage. I've got lots of armor, which will hold up for, well, maybe 2 or 3 of those. Once my armor disappears, my systems go down, such as my engine, my transmission, the ability to change gears, my brakes, and suspension. For some reason, the schematic there on the left side of the screen that shows damage does not show wheels. I don't know why they did that. It also would have been more convenient in playing on a touch screen here on the mobile version if, as part of the ability to customize the HUD, you could move those around along with the map and the speedometer and gear indicator over on the other side of this screen. Well, it shows there's still somebody out ahead of me. And oops. Oh well, there goes my front bumper. I'm going to start taking damage from my internal probably. Or what's in behind the bumper means in the barrel. If you look up into the top left-hand part of the screen there, you'll see there's an indication of 4 people position on the position there's where they are on the track. I'm in first place now. Obviously, the guy that was in front of me crashed out. You know what? Now, what I like to do? I like to go on the prow. It works when you've got a heavily armored car. It does not work too well if you've got a car that's not a lot of armor. The best technique to do if you've got a car that's not got a lot of armor is just to keep racing. With this one, I can wait for a competitor and chase them down. Because I should be able to take a little more damage than he does, given all my armor. Assuming I can drive on the track. Now, that is one thing. You can use this technique on more than just this track. This track I've chosen because it's not all wall-lined. It does not work as well on a wall-lined track. Because you can't get enough speed up usually going across the track. Or at least the bots can't take themselves out. And it's completely wall-lined. It just directs them on down the track so they don't take as much damage. With a track like this that's got trees along the side of the track, they can get up a lot of speed and hit him straight on into objects that will do a lot of damage to them. Okay, you notice up in the top left-hand corner, this is only showing times for two other opponents, and I've got time the second one there. It does not show a time on that part of the screen for me. Mine is over on the right side of the screen. As I was saying about the best tracks to do this on, well, you get a much better payout if you do the longest track, the Rally Trophy track, at the end of the strolling to the far end of the available tracks. Don't see him there, but there's still somebody out on the track, and they've got 2 minutes and 50 seconds to do a lap. Now, that usually means there's a car that's damaged out on the track. I could crash my car now, and I'd get a very good payout. I'd like to come in first. Part of this technique not being the absolute fastest way to run in the game. That car's still going, I think. You can hear his engine? He's still going. Hey, if you look up in the top left-hand corner, he just went DNF. Now, since I'm playing on mobile, I don't have access here to all 24 positions of all the vehicles in the field. I need to swipe up to see what they are. As you can see here, they've all gone DNF. So we'll hit the resume. We do not want to hit play over. It took me 4 laps. And my race time is 8.5 minutes. So let's go see if I can finish off my car and see what kind of payout we get. Yep, just confirmed I finished first. And there were only 8 cars make it past the first lap. The rest don't have a lap time. They did not make it through the first lap. We'll hit continue, and here we get to see the payout. There's my EX earnings, 56,000 plus, which is pretty good. You can do better than that if you go to the longest track available. And other YouTube video channels have shown using that track to crash out rather quickly and get a reasonable payout in a few seconds practically. I find this works better. It actually has some gameplay in it. And what really matters here is the credits. I got 13,000. I can use those after a few races. 4 races. I'd have enough to buy all the parts for one car, and I could go on and select the next car I want to do. So when you're not feeling too greedy and you just want a good payout and have some decent gameplay going, this is a technique to use. Maximum number of opponents, maximum number of laps, a track with either a lot of head-on collisions so the bots are crossovers, so the bots take themselves out. And you try to avoid everything when you're on a track like that, or one you can go into that's tree line where the bots can crash into a lot of obstacles to the side of the track and take themselves out, and you can get some gameplay in by doing a little bit of racing. So when you're not feeling too greedy, you can try this technique rather than go for the maximum payouts you can get by doing what other YouTube videos have been showing. So that's it for my video now.